Yeah. That's one thing I noticed, like when I first followed you, was when you started really just like implementing like next level VFX. Like when did you kind of start making that transition to like just like adding more advanced visual effects into your music videos? And also I feel like that also was that a point that kind of like helped separate you, or like when you started getting bigger gigs?
Yeah, I think so. There wasn't like a point where I was like, okay, I'm going to take VFX serious. I think it just kind of happened. You start to see like other projects from like bigger labels like Warner, whatever. They all have like some level of VFX. And so I kind of understood, to get my videos to feel to that level, there has to be some sort of like, at least be able to make the room look bigger, at least be able to like do wire removal. And so just kind of like by proxy of being like, okay, how are they doing that? And then you watch the behind the scenes and then you go, oh, that was actually a huge setup for what I thought was a super simple shot. And then you do that big setup and it pays off. And then so it just kind of like compounded. It never was like I want to start being like a VFX director guy. It just was like, I'm getting these micro budgets and there's just no room for it, but I want these in my video. So I'm just going to spend the time and learn how to do it and do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There was never like a moment where it was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. But it's always been there. It's always, and even back in like, early 2000s, like the stuff that I liked was always like an Evanescence video. She's standing out on the, she's hanging over the building. The dude's climbing out of the window to get to her or whatever. It's like, it's cool to know how to do that. Or people reference like Linkin Park videos and there's a ton of VFX in those. So just kind of want to like, for myself, like even before anything, I used to love watching those videos. And so for myself, I'm just like, I want to be able to make one of those videos. So that's kind of like what steers it all.
Yeah.
And do you prefer like, so now, I mean, lately you've been doing a lot of stuff with like Unreal Engine and like green screen stuff. I mean, is there a level of like practical versus like VFX that you kind of prefer, or like?
Yeah. Half and half is usually the sweet spot. If you can get like a set that people can stand on, because foot contact is a huge thing in VFX. So if you can build like a stage where they can stand on, walk around, they can move, that's good. If they interact with stuff or if things need to cast shadows, sometimes it helps for like global illumination of just like the light that gets cast from the practical set. Like that stuff can influence how the background will happen later, things like that. So yeah, it's like kind of down the middle is preferred, and that's the territory I'm entering now. It used to just be like, we're going to go to a green void. I'm going to make everything in post, including the floor. And it's kind of limiting because like, you know what you're trying to shoot, but you're really kind of like counting on it working later on. And so if we have the floor, then at least like half of your screen is actual photography and the other half is VFX or whatever. And I feel like that just helps make the VFX look better. But it's hard. It's very hard. Matching parallaxing and textures and lighting and all that.
No, I just did my first music video that's kind of like with a lot of green screen with Unreal, trying to kind of do what you've been doing.
For sure.
And there's so many things I didn't even think about, like the shadows on the floor. And like I ended up having to hide a bunch of shadow stuff. With like rocks and stuff.
You put the rubble in front of them.
Yeah, because the green screen that we had was just a seamless, so it was really like not big enough for what I needed, especially for the drum set. Like went all the way to the edge of the green screen.
Your rotoscoping.
It was like it was a, and then also the shiny, like I texted you on set. I was like, what do I, like how do I do this? And like the symbol, and you were like, watch out for those symbols, and like they have those symbols.
We're way too deep in on that. It's like,
the symbols are so hard to change that now. I had no idea how much chrome was on a drum set till I had to shoot it on.
And you're getting those green reflections, right?
Yeah, it's just just like cause all the edges of the drum set is chrome, so it's reflecting the green. The symbols are reflecting the green.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it was a.
So I mean, what are some of the? I guess that's a pro of using a video wall, right? Is like because you're getting those reflections, especially with these wild walls we have right here.
Yes.
What has been your experience versus green screen versus using the video walls?
So I like to go about it. I kind of treat both individually. I don't think that like one replaces the other. I don't think one's better than the other. I think they just offer different advantages and disadvantages. So like you just mentioned, the reflections are major. And if I know that I'm going to be shooting more medium shots than wide shots, I always kind of go for I would go for a LED wall. But green screen is just also, sorry. It also, you might still need to rotoscope something. You might still need to motion track something that happens on an LED wall. I've had to do that. That has become harder for hair. And so like, there's just like little nuances that you kind of don't know until you get to it. But there's a treatment that I just wrote where basically we're going to do both. We're going to do LED wall for certain shots and then green screen for other shots, just because it feels like it makes the most sense to do each shot individually.
Yeah.
You know,
so have you, what have you seen when like turning the LED wall just green and like doing that as well?
I mean,
like,
usually we would have, it's a little bit trickier. I mean, the big benefit is like, you can just do that. Like if you know you're not happy with the background or there's something that needs to be like tweaked in post. We've also done like wire work where we're like, oh, this is gonna be way easier if we just have green to take the wires out. We can turn it to green, but because it is reflecting light, like the edges of hair, and you might get some bloom depending on the kind of lenses you have, that kind of like pollution on the actual person and the talent makes it a lot harder to key out. So, I mean, generally we try to keep them as far away from the wall as possible and then just dim it to like the darkest green we can. And it works for the most part. But there's always like positive and negatives with LED walls. Like there's moire and stuff. And
for
like,
sure.
You want depth of field when you're shooting video walls to get rid of moire, but then you also, for green screen, you want more stuff in focus so you can key it out.
Right.
So it's kind of like opposite.
Right.
I think I would probably still opt to use a real green screen if you have time to set it up. But if you're in a pickle, you just got to like rush a green screen shot really quick, then just,
If you're in a bind and you need to get a quick green screen shot, just use an LED wall.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying if you're here shooting LED content already, you know what I mean?
Great advice, Andy.
I'm kidding.
But talking on like an indie level, what are some tips that you would say for like if someone wanted to get into like green screen, Unreal Engine, and kind of creating some of these scenes that you have been able to create, some of these effects? What are some basics that you would recommend for a beginner?
Any of the basic tutorials on YouTube are great. That's where I learned all of my Unreal information. I've never paid for a course on it. It is difficult to kind of look for certain issues, but once you understand the language of Unreal, it's really simple to kind of like reverse engineer. Like I'm having this issue with my viewport, you kind of know the parameters of like what to search to figure that out. YouTube Academy is what I would recommend. That's how everything you've ever seen is just me just watching something on YouTube and learning how to do it, or trial and error. I don't think that's like a fun, helpful answer, but just
you gotta put in that work.
You just gotta, yeah. It's like my thing is like this is like a hobby that turned into a career, especially the VFX. And so even like on a Friday night, say I just came back from like a show and I've had a couple of drinks, I'm still going to go home and I'm gonna fall asleep watching VFX tutorials. It's like, it's the comfort thing for me, and I don't know, I'm just obsessed with it. And and so just be obsessed with it is like, if you're actually interested in it, like go all in on it. That's what I would suggest.
And you learned Blender first too, right?
I tried to learn Blender.
Are you more comfortable with Unreal?
Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a couple of Blender friends. There's a dude, Ducky3D. He followed me on Instagram one time. It was so ironic. It was right around the time that I was watching his Blender tutorials on YouTube. He followed me and I was like, yo, this is crazy. I've been watching your tutorials. He was like, okay, cool. We could get on a call and run you through a couple things. I asked him to do that. And he's super good, very, very well versed in Blender, like knows all the ins and outs. I spent 2 hours on there with him, and at the end of the call, I was like, I don't feel like I know 1% more than I did at the beginning of this call. And it wasn't because how he explained it. It's just Blender has its own language, similar to how Unreal has its own language. And it's just easier for me to poke around in Unreal.
Oh, interesting.
You just have the assets. They're already textured. They have the normal maps already. You don't have to like, I don't know. It's way easier to get into Unreal. I always tell this to people on set, like, you're 5 hours away from being able to make your own environment in Unreal. Like, you just have to watch along with the tutorial.
Yeah.
And then after you go through the process, it's not scary. Like, it's scary when you open it and you don't know it.
I think that is a big plus of Unreal, like the way they have it set up, where they have like a marketplace where like everything's like kind of open license for you to just download stuff that other people made, models and stuff that just kind of come in and work, as opposed to other 3D programs where you have to like download all these things, and some of them are built in Maya, some of them are built in Cinema 4D. They might not
flip the normals.
Yeah, the normals are flipped.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of stuff's not set up for Blender, so
Yeah.
now you have to try to fix it.
Yeah.
But Unreal does a great job to kind of like
For sure.
just having stuff ready for you that works.
The marketplace is enormous.
Crazy.
They always have free stuff.
Yeah.
I'm always buying stuff. Like whenever
Yeah,
it's free, even if I don't need it, I'm just like,
it's like, damn, I might need this.
I will use this in the future. Yeah.
You might even like write a treatment around it too, right?
Exactly.
Like you see this, like, damn, this is sick.
I have done
I want
that.
to make a music video based off of this.
For
cool
sure.
thing I see.
For sure.